KPBS On Demand is supported by Markel Design and Remodeling, helping homeowners with their home remodeling needs. From ADUs to kitchen remodels, room additions, and custom homes, Markel Design and Remodeling can help homeowners design and build their dream homes. More at trustyourhometous.com.
Welcome back to another edition of the KPBS Cinema Junkie podcast. I'm Beth Accomando, and I'm at Monsterpalooza. On April 22nd, the 2016 Monsterpalooza, The Art of the Monster, kicked off at a new venue, the Pasadena Convention Center. The convention was started on the East Coast by Elliot Brodsky. Then it was known as Maskapalooza. And then it moved west in 2009, where it became Monsterpalooza. For the past 7 years, it's been held at the Marriott Burbank Convention Center. But it's grown so much in recent years that Brodsky decided to move it to the Pasadena Convention Center. I caught him on the exhibit floor and asked him how the new venue was working out.
Moving from one city to another can at times be a hard decision to make. Everybody gets comfortable in a existing location, the attendees as well as the people involved in the show.
And by the way, they both look fantastic.
They both look fantastic. Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay, what was the question? I'm sorry.
That's okay, no worries. How has the change of venue been for you?
I really enjoyed the previous location. It was almost like a diamond in the rough. It was almost like an exclusive club that either you got in or you didn't. And with this change, everybody gets in and there's plenty of elbow room and opportunity to get up close and see what everybody's presenting on their tables.
And are you going to be staying with this venue?
I believe from what I've discussed with different people who are attending as well as vending and signing, this seems to be the best location for future shows.
And will Son of Monsterpalooza be moving, or will that stay in Burbank?
I think we'll keep Sun in Burbank for the fall. It's the Sun, so it sort of makes sense. The smaller show is going to stick around for a little bit longer. Like I said, I do love Burbank, and a lot of our attendees love it as well, so now they'll get a bit of both worlds.
Monsterpalooza was born out of Brodsky's love for movie monsters of all kinds. One attraction for fans has been the opportunity to share their love with other fans, and also with the children of famous actors who brought those monsters to life. Usually you can find the children of Boris Karloff, Bela Lugosi, Lon Chaney, and Vincent Price at the convention. When I approached Sarah Karloff, whose father gave us the most iconic Frankenstein monster, she was signing a photo for a young girl who looked about 8 years old.
Where do you have a specific place you'd like me to sign it? There you go.
Thank you.
You're more than welcome. Take one of our cards and visit our website.
You've been coming to Monsterpalooza for quite a while, talking about your father. So tell me, why is it important for you to come to conventions like that? Why do you feel it's important to do this?
Well, it's important to me because it's important to the fans. It's the fans who are the reason I'm invited. And it's the fans who have perpetuated my father's legacy. It's the fans who know more about my father's career than I could ever learn. None of this has anything to do with me. I'm a conduit for the fans to my father, the fans who wish they'd had an opportunity to meet him, to ask him questions, and then it gives me an opportunity to ask the fans questions. So this is really all about the fans, not about the families, and it's a great opportunity for me to learn more about my father.
Really? So do you have a favorite memory of something you learned from fans that you didn't know?
Not really, just to learn about my father from their perspective. And one of the nicest things for me as a family member is to know that from their perspective, the remarkable gentleness of the man himself came through to the fans in all of his roles, no matter how monstrous they may or may not have been. They all understood that underneath all the makeup and some of the really appalling roles, they got it. They understood that he was one of the nicest human beings that ever lived, and indeed he was.
And you're here in a row with Vincent Price's daughter and Bela Lugosi's son. What do you think has contributed to the legacy of these actors that has made them so popular for so long?
Well, I think, of course, Vincent is of a different era, although Vincent and my dad were great friends. And Bela and my father made, I believe it was 7 films together. And my father worked with Vincent also. And again, I think the long legs these legacies have are due to the fans. This type of horror, my father preferred the word terror, but this type of horror is gentle as compared to that which you see on the screen today. And I think these men all understood that the real horror is on the street, not up on the screen.
Do you have a first memory of seeing your father on the big screen and what impact that had on you?
Not really, because I was really out of sync with my father's career. His iconic roles, Frankenstein and The Mummy in particular, were made before I was born. And they weren't playing in theaters when I came of the age to go to movies, and most girl persons don't go to those kind of movies anyway. And I lived in San Francisco, not in Hollywood, and I went to a private girls' school, and the kind of movies we went to were not those types of movies in the first place. I first saw Frankenstein not on the big screen, but on television when I was 19 years old. So, of course, by that time I'd heard so much about it and had read so much about it that I watched it rather studiously. And, I'm often asked if I was scared the first time I saw it, and indeed I was not. But to this day, I do not like scary movies. So, it's bad casting me as my father's daughter. I'm a wuss. I leave the room during Murder, She Wrote.
And did he ever share any memories of doing roles like Frankenstein and having to be under all that makeup?
He was a very, very modest man and a very self-effacing man. His humor really was at his own expense. He didn't talk about other actors. He didn't bring his work home. But in interviews, when he was asked specific questions, he would, of course, respond with integrity to questions asked of him about those roles. So there are many, many printed interviews, mainly, along those lines. And, it was a very arduous, Frankenstein in particular, and The Mummy, were very arduous roles. He lost 25 pounds during the making of Frankenstein, and he was already a starving actor and did not have 25 pounds to lose. But he was passionate about his profession, and he would have done anything to remain a working actor at that point. But indeed, the fact that he was able to work, he would have done anything. Later, not that much later, in 1933, actually, Frankenstein was made in 31. But my father became one of the founding members of the Screen Actors Guild, and his card was number 9. And once he was in a position actually became an overnight star after 20 years in the business. But once he gained a position of having a voice in his profession, he felt it was extremely important to give back to that profession via the formation or helping to form the Screen Actors Guild and give up-and-coming actors a voice in their own well-being in that profession, because he had indeed suffered at the hands of tyrannical directors and studios and 19-hour work days and 4 hours of putting the makeup on and 3 hours of taking it off, and that's before the 19-hour shooting day started. So he had paid his dues certainly before his overnight success. Started at age 44.
All right, thank you.
More than welcome, my pleasure.
My name is Bela Lugosi. I'm the son of the deceased actor Bela Lugosi. We have a booth here at the Monsterpalooza show, showcasing photographs and other items depicting my dad. And really we're keeping his memory alive this way. And with the amount of people here at this convention, a lot of people have come by. And it's really a good experience because everyone really says such nice things about my dad and his acting.
Oh, yeah.
My dad never would have believed that he had this outpouring of interest.
And you've been coming to Monsterpalooza for quite a few years, correct?
I've been coming for several years to Monsterpalooza, and a lot of the same people I see from year to year, which is always very nice. Really, if it weren't for all the fans, this phenomena would not have taken place.
Do you think your father ever thought that his legacy would last this long and that that creating Dracula would be so iconic like this?
My dad never would have believed that he would be remembered. He thought he was forgotten, and so he loved the fans. So this would be a wonderful experience for him to see the outpouring of praise for him this many years, after his death.
And what do you remember most about your dad's filmmaking career? I mean, were you ever on the set with him or watch him act?
Yeah, I was on the set.
What was it like as a kid? What did you remember of that?
I was on the set of the motion picture Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, and I'll never forget the experience because it was very unique. We had the Frankenstein monster, the Wolfman, and I'd go to the commissary with all these people made up in their costumes. So it was an unforgettable experience.
And you're here at Monsterpalooza in this row where there's also Vincent Price's daughter and Boris Karloff's daughter. What do you think about these characters that your parents created that has created this lasting legacy? What is it that you think people are connecting with decades after they made these films?
Well, this kind of resurgence and attention this many years after they died only is bestowed on a few people. And these are people who have, for some reason, become part of the popular culture of the country and become iconic. And so I think now those that you just mentioned will live on forever.
And what do you remember of seeing your father on film for the first time, like going to a theater and seeing him on the big screen?
I remember seeing my dad for the first time in a movie when we went to the theater with some of my contemporary, little kids actually. They were all frightened and hiding behind the seats. And of course up on the screen, to me, that was just Dad, so I wasn't frightened.
Were there any roles of his that did frighten you?
No.
And what kind of a father was he growing up?
Well, Dad was a good father. He tried to always teach me things, and hard work, be considerate.
All right, thank you.
Hi, this is Victoria Price. I'm Vincent Price's daughter.
You just sold some shirts to some very young people. What kind of interactions are you having, and are you surprised by the age range of people who are interested in your dad?
My dad always wanted to stay relevant to young people. He loved young people. He thought of himself as a big kid. So it was really important in his career that he do that, and I think because of that, he did a lot of things that young people love. He did that when I was a kid, doing Batman and Get Smart and Mod Squad and the Brady Bunch. But I also think that it's that kids now are hungering for something authentic, and I think there's something really real about my dad.
So you're here at Monsterpalooza. I had met you at Abattoir, the horror film festival. So what's Monsterpalooza like for you?
You know, this year's really fun because I love the new space. It's in the Pasadena Convention Center, which is much roomier. The lighting is excellent, and lighting at these conventions makes a big difference. And very high ceilings and good climate control. I know those are all silly things, but when you spend a lot of time at a convention, when all those things happen, it allows the people to have a lot more fun. And it seems like everybody is having a great time here. So consequently, I'm having a great time with them here, and I'm glad to be here.
You're here in a row with Bela Lugosi's son and Boris Karloff's daughter. What is it about these stars that you think had such a lasting legacy?
I think they were stars at a time where they were creating the molds. Now stars are either following the same molds or trying to break them. But these were stars who really were at the beginnings of Hollywood, and so I think in a funny way they were truer to themselves because they weren't trying to be like someone else. And as a result, who they were, and they weren't caught up in the whole publicity machine, they were really genuinely interested, kind, talented people. I think that comes through in their performances, and I think there's a hunger for that in the celebrity world.
And do you feel it's things like this and conventions like Monsterpalooza that also help keep your dad's memory alive?
Absolutely. I think the horror conventions are a wonderful thing because they bring all kinds of people together, families, people who maybe in their own lives don't feel like they're able to connect with people with similar interests, people who enjoy dressing up, very creative people, and I always enjoy it.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Victoria Price and Sarah Karloff are both on the board of directors for a proposed Hollywood Horror Museum. It's the dream project of Houston Huddleston. He had the opening panel for this year's Monsterpalooza and is trying to raise funds for the museum. I asked him to sum up what he discussed at his panel.
It was about our brand new museum called the Hollywood Horror Museum that spawned out of the other museum that we're doing called the Hollywood Science Fiction Museum.
What is important about having a museum dedicated to horror films?
It's obviously a huge part of our culture for over 100 years in films, but also in literature, and there's much more to horror than what people consider it to be. The obvious on the level is, it's a movie to scare someone, but the thing most people don't realize, were there not for horror in films, there would be no such thing as the boom of Max Factor and what we call modern prosthetics and makeup effects and special effects. They were created for horror films, not for beauty as much, but and it's also saved numerous studios numerous times, including Universal, Warner, Paramount, Lionsgate, as recently as that. So for it to still be the bastard stepchild is really inappropriate, I think.
What kind of things would you want to have in this museum? What would people be able to see or do there?
There will be two entrances. There will be the classic monsters, which will start with Nosferatu, 1925 version, or is it 22? I can't remember now. I think it's 25. And there will go on through 1965, which is the Hammer films, the Dracula, Frankenstein with Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee. And then from the other side of the museum will be the gore and the not family-friendly side, which will be the 14 years old and over, which will have the gore and sexuality of starting with Night of the Living Dead and go on through most recent Hostel films, Saw, and anything else that Blumhouse happens to do that we can get props for.
Well, and I heard at the panel, too, I think one of your panelists mentioned that she had been involved in some readings of unproduced horror scripts, and that sounded interesting.
That was a brilliant idea. I hadn't heard that, and we always intended to have a theater and to have live presentations with the cast, crew, directors, writers, all these brilliant people who have made these films, and to find out the things that never got off the ground. I think that's genius, and I definitely want to do that. So hopefully it will be nearby Los Angeles to do that, so they don't have to fly or drive that far to make it happen.
So where are you at in the process of getting this to be a reality?
We're creating the ugly, messy business plans and the really boring, horrible stuff that you have to do to get the money. The budget, the prospectus, the overview, the outlay of the concept art, the how much of the figures that we want and the props that we want can fit in the 40,000 square foot space that we want to have this in. Do our best, see if we can work it in between a 500 and 1 million budget so that we can start touring. And once we start touring, we'll be making a lot of money. We've already got offers from Japan and from China and Dubai and Las Vegas. So if we could have 2 separate tours going on simultaneously, then that will be sooner and faster and more money that we can create our permanent museum in Los Angeles.
And what kind of reaction have you been getting from fans about the idea of a horror museum?
Oh, terrible. No one cares. I'm kidding. No, they absolutely adore it. This is what everybody's wanted. As me, I'm a fan. All of our board members are fans, except for possibly Sarah Karloff, who admits that she doesn't like horror movies because they scare her. But everybody else, they got into the business because of Forey Ackerman and Famous Monsters of Filmland, and because of the classic horror films they used to show on television, and learning about who these people are. And then the next generation got from those guys, and then it goes on and on and on. The fans are ecstatic. They want this to happen yesterday, or 5 years ago, or 50 years ago if Forey Ackerman had still been around. This is the same with the Science Fiction Museum. We're doing this for the fans. This is a fan-run, fan-based, fan-created thing, and that's why I think it's going to be as awesome and amazing as it is.
And we're talking about this here at Monsterpalooza. So what is the importance of having conventions like Monsterpalooza?
Monsterpalooza is an industry convention. Fans come to this, but this is where you will find the creators who make the horror films and the television shows actually coming and selling their wares and showing their work, which is incredible. You don't see that anywhere else in the world. In fact, I'm going to tell you, Elliot, who created this out of nothing, is the founder of Monsterpalooza, and his Monsterpalooza is what in many ways inspired us to create the museum, because they have this thing that they call the museum, which they bring in different artists from all different companies, and they show off their wares. These are very famous people from K&B, Greg Nicotero's people, all these people who do Walking Dead and all these other shows. And I thought to myself, what if this were permanent? Not necessarily the booths set up and the stars set up to sign as much, but certainly to show people, oh my God, this is 3D in front of me. This is not just on a screen. This is something that is a textile thing that you're there. You're walking into the film set. There's a feeling unlike any other when it's truly that. And it's going to be like, think of a wax museum, but plus, where it's an actual learning wax museum, and you actually step into the set, not just a little box that a character's there, a poorly constructed character is there. So that's what this specific convention means to me. And there's Texas Frightmare, which is much more a fan convention, which is also brilliant. Chiller, I hear, is amazing. But there's nothing like this. And it's in Hollywood, where all the studios can actually come across the hill and show their wares instead of having to travel 5,000 miles, 10,000 miles to do it.
And this is their first year here at the Pasadena Convention Center. How has it been changing venues?
It's a lot more room, a lot more people. It's less cramped. And I think people were a bit overwhelmed for it to be as big as it is. But as with any, this is like a first year in certain ways, because it is so huge and it's 3 or 4 times the size of what the Burbank one was. So it's very much like a first year, and there are always problems and there are always benefits. But I think it ran rather smoothly, personally. And it certainly, I hope they will continue to do it at this or a similarly sized building where you can get and my God, we want a booth here. So there wasn't even room enough for us to get a booth because we didn't do it in time. But by the next Monsterpalooza, hopefully we'll have a booth as well for the Hollywood Horror Museum.
So how long have you been working on this horror museum?
It's only been 7 months, which is astonishing. We did a Kickstarter for about $20,000 because we weren't greedy and we didn't need really any more than that to get the initial steps done, which is create the 501c3, the nonprofit. And then I started interviewing horror directors. The first one was Tom Holland, and at the end of the interview, I said, he asked me, he said, you're going to need a separate board of directors for this horror museum as opposed to the sci-fi museum. I said, you're absolutely correct. I said, you want to be on it? He says, yes. So then I started asking other horror directors and other writers and producers, and also, honestly, there are only 3 people who said no. Every other one, and we're talking massive names. I mean, the most iconic names of horror are all part of this thing. And they include Clive Barker, John Carpenter, Sean S. Cunningham, who created Friday the 13th, Joe Dante, director of Gremlins, Mick Garris, director of Masters of Horror and producer of that, Tom Holland, who did Fright Night and Child's Play, Sarah Karloff, Boris Karloff's daughter, Victoria Price, who's Vincent Price's daughter, Tim Lucas, who's a writer for Video Watchdog, Jennifer Lynch, hell of a director and crazy person, Greg Nicotero, who founded KNB and also directs and produces Walking Dead. Gosh, Brian Usna. I can't think of all the brilliant people, but a lot of them are here at Monsterpalooza with their own booths. But that they would trust this project enough to think, because these are very wealthy, very famous people who are not going to associate their names with some schlocky piece of garbage. And for them to trust me, of all people, to be a part of this and to see, well, I'll say this, though. We did have a business plan, and we did have a formula that is making the Sci-Fi Museum work, and we're using that same formula to a certain degree to create the Horror Museum. If it were not for that, it would just be pie in the sky. Oh, yeah, man, I want to do this. That's so cool. Yeah, okay. In my mind, little Houston's thinking that, but I have to be professional in business and think in terms of financial terms and what's the timeline, how can this be done, what are the restrictions, and by golly, it's working.
So with all those people behind you on the board, does that give you the confidence that this is going to be a reality fairly soon?
Well, fairly soon, meaning next year, yes, because there are touring companies that do like the Harry Potter exhibit and the Star Wars exhibit and the King Tut exhibit, these sort of things, Star Trek, who travel from museum to museum and do these amphitheaters and do this sort of thing. Walking with Dinosaurs is another. They want this thing because it's a studio-neutral project. It's not just one studio saying, okay, this is a Star Trek thing, this is a Star Wars thing. This is all of everything. And that's what makes this incredible, because it is fair use, because it is educational and nonprofit. And so studios are coming to me, Universal, Lionsgate, and they see the potential to promote past, present, and future, specifically future projects, because they want to pump that stuff out that's now coming out, that's presently on television. And there are over 20 different horror television shows presently being produced on the air right now, which, I don't think it's ever, we ever come to this. It's because of Walking Dead and because of the Emmy-winning American Horror Story. If it weren't for those shows, horror would not be appreciated as it is now. And by God, we need a museum to show this stuff. This is the perfect time for that.
All right, thank you.
No problem, thank you.
Monsterpalooza also provides the perfect meeting space for fans and professionals. Eric Heinley of Premier Products brought in Academy Award-winning makeup artists to do demonstrations of their craft in his booth. They were also available to answer all questions from fans. I asked him why he felt it was important for him and his company to be at Monsterpalooza year after year.
Well, we are an FDA-licensed cosmetic manufacturer, and so we make a lot of the special effects products that are used in all the horror films and just general TV as well, movies and TV. And so this is a fan show for people that celebrate this genre. And since it's so heavily makeup-based, we make those products. That's why we're here, is because everybody uses this stuff. Yeah, that's why we're here, is just because we make all of these products that are used in the film industry. So we have 5 Academy Award-winning makeup artists that are here in this booth doing demos and being available for one-on-one instruction or just product intros. So all of these guys, Greg Canham is 3-time Academy Award-winning makeup artist. He did Dracula, he did Mrs. Doubtfire, Benjamin Button, Hannibal. He's sitting there in the booth, and he uses all this stuff and has over the course of his career. And so it's a really great way for people that are fans of the genre to meet the people that actually did the behind-the-scenes special effects stuff.
Well, it seems that Monsterpalooza is a nice mix of fans and professionals.
It's become that. It used to be just fans. And if you see, you've got those the autograph people that are standing outside. I mean, people love seeing that. And they may not care about this end of it. They just like a nice, scary movie, or they like, something, some sci-fi representation. And then I want to meet the star of it. I don't care how they did it. I don't care what it takes. Then you have this element as well. And this element has grown. We were the only makeup company that is here. Now there are several makeup companies, several brush companies, several special effects shops that are here. So the representation is really growing. It's good.
And do you find that there are more people who are just getting into this for fun or hobbies or for Halloween?
Absolutely. They're called weekend warriors, right? You're a lawyer that rides a Harley on the weekend. There are a lot of people that are like that. And there's, those are called haunts, those shows where people go and get together and they want a spooky Halloween, they want to run a haunted house, and they want to be able to dress people up. You can do that with this makeup as well. So yeah, it does cross a lot of lines.
So in the years you've been coming to Monsterpalooza, it really has grown quite a lot.
5 years, yeah. It has. I mean, this is the biggest show that they've ever had, so it's very cool.
And do you like this new venue at Pasadena Convention Center?
I do. I also like the Burbank one. It's very cool. It's smaller and more intimate, and this is a lot bigger. And they're having a great success, so it's awesome.
And do you enjoy doing a convention like this?
Yeah, absolutely. You get a chance to meet a lot of people that really appreciate the work. A lot of new people that you get to. It's like a high school reunion a lot of times. Because you see people that you haven't seen in years, and people that you want to see. There's always, there are more makeup artists, more union makeup artists here than ever before. So it's very, very cool.
Now, because this is for radio and I can't show people what's going on in your booth, tell me about, you're having almost like demonstrations. So if you came in the morning and saw something, you might see that makeup at a fuller point or a finish point later in the day. Is that how it goes?
Yeah, well, we have high-level makeup artists that come and do something. We had Mike Mikash, who is part of American Horror Story, and they came and did a character from American Horror Story. That's Pepper from American Horror Story. That was done in our booth at a previous year. And Bill Corso is Academy Award-winning makeup artist. He's doing something on his wife. Richard Redlison just did The Phantom of the Opera. He's on Twin Peaks right now. Louis Zakarian, who is the makeup department head for Saturday Night Live for 22 years, just did a Conehead. So you get to see a lot of fun stuff, and it's a great representation. And then the characters walk around, and so you can see them, and it's a lot of fun.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Schools also have booths at Monsterpalooza where students get to demonstrate what they're learning. I spoke with Martha Torres, the admissions representative for EI School of Professional Makeup.
We are a professional makeup school based out of Hollywood, California. The school is one of the first makeup schools that ever existed. We were founded in 1966 by a group of professional makeup artists, and we feel that there's quite the interest in becoming professional makeup artists, so we offer a very comprehensive year-long program for anybody wanting to pursue it professionally. The program does cover 6 distinct different disciplines within makeup, starting off with beauty, which would be your first course. The second course is theater and performance makeup. Third one is going to be high fashion and photography. Fourth is high definition television makeup. The fifth is going to be the tech lab, where people actually learn how to make prosthetics. A lot of the pieces that you're seeing here were made in the tech lab. And then the last one, the final, is makeup for film, where everything comes together, comes full circle. Everything that they've learned throughout the year all comes together in this one last class.
Because this is only audio and I can't show people, describe what's going on in your booths.
Yes, so we have faculty and students putting together a few different looks. Everything's made out of prosthetics. It's been quite the labor of love. It came into conception in early January, and they've been working nonstop since then. Today we have 2 separate demonstrations going on. On one side of the booth we have little trio family of sea people. And on the other side, continuing with the theme of like sea, we're having a female sea creature on the other side as well. It takes about, I want to say 6 hours to put the looks together, just actually applying the prosthetics onto the people, adding all the makeup, all the detailed work that goes into it, all the airbrushing. But the actual making of these prosthetics, like I said, was starting in early January. So a lot of work goes into it, and it all culminates in an event like this. We're very, 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 very proud of our students and our faculty.
So someone coming to Monsterpalooza can stop by your booth like in the morning and see it just starting, and then stop by at the end and see something completed?
Absolutely. We actually encourage everybody to stop by in the morning so you can see the pieces without any detail, just the raw prosthetics. Come back around a few times because it does take a lot of layering of color and makeup. And then definitely at the end, that's when you get to see the finished look. And we highly encourage for people to stroll back around periodically throughout the day.
What some people may not realize is when you're talking about these prosthetics, they're just plain white or beige or flesh color or something. But there's no detail, there's no color, there's no depth of, design.
Nothing at all. It's just, imagine just a piece of foam, like in the shape of a mask, if you will. And then what adds the color and what adds all the dimension and makes it look as realistic as possible is that the layers and layers and layers and layers of makeup that these artists add. Very, very detailed work.
Have you noticed an increase in people that are interested in this kind of work?
Definitely. I think social media plays a huge part in that. It's so accessible to everybody. It's at your fingertips. So Instagram, Facebook, you name it. Just social media has such a power, and people maybe had an interest in something like this before, didn't know what to do, where to go. Now with that, they have the information at their fingertips, and they're able to come to events like this, see for themselves, and then hopefully be able to pursue whatever their passions are.
And do conventions like Monsterpalooza make people more aware of what that craft is?
Yes, to an extent, yes, because they do get to see, especially if they come a few times during the day to check out what the demos are as the demos are progressing. Yes, but they're not going to get the in-depth knowledge, obviously, that a in-classroom setting would give you. But that's what we're here for in the admissions office, to give them a little brief overview as to what we have to offer, some of the things that they can expect should they decide to pursue the program. But yeah, it's really exciting to see the progress our students make, for sure.
And you hear a lot about CGI becoming more dominant. How does that affect the kind of work you do? Are you teaching students how to do work that can work hand in hand with CGI, or what's the future of that looking like?
Well, for CGI, I wouldn't be able to speak too in depth about that because we don't cover that in our program. Definitely, it does any type of technology, or it definitely affects the film industry. The difference between the things that we do here and CGI is if you're not going to be doing anything close-ups, if you're going to be doing a little bit from further away, like the angles are a little bit further away. If you're going to see a character and you want to see the detail in that character, you're going to want to have an actual prosthetic. But yeah, things are changing, things are evolving, definitely, and we definitely keep up with whatever's happening in the industry.
And if people want more information, where can they go?
They can definitely visit us at ei.edu.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
But with the internet, some fans are discovering that they can up their game just by going online and finding YouTube videos and other fans who are willing to share tips. Nikki Miyamoto was at Monsterpalooza with her family. Her and her husband created Predator and Alien costumes for their small daughters. Their work was amazing.
I am standing with Nikki, who has fabricated a brilliant alien costume for her daughter. So tell me what this is.
It's the Xenomorph Queen from the second movie, Aliens.
And what inspired you to make this for your daughter as a costume?
Well, I actually started with her sister, who is now 5. 2 years ago, we made a baby Predator costume for her. And ever since then, we've been wondering, how are we going to beat that? And my husband suggested that we do an alien queen, and he originally wanted me to do the alien queen because it'd be perfect proportions with our little 5-year-old. But Zoe wanted something epic, so her older sister Zoe, and so we decided to make her the alien queen.
So Zoe, you are in this alien costume. How does it feel to walk around in this costume?
Hot.
Do you like that people keep stopping and asking for your picture?
Not a lot.
Do you like being dressed up like that?
Yeah. It's not uncomfortable.
She goes through spurts where sometimes she loves the attention and she really craves it, and then other times she's just like, leave me alone. I want to have a water and a cookie. So, typical 8-year-old behavior,
So this costume looks fabulous.
Thank you.
How did you get the skills for this? Is this something that you do in your regular job also?
Well, I started cosplaying myself. It wasn't called cosplay at the time, but costume wearing in 1989. And I've just been doing it for myself. And for a real job, I used to design and make patterns for dance costumes for a local company called Marcia.com. And so every year we would have an annual catalog, and that's what I did for a real job. And but we kind of got out of the costume play when we first had Zoe, and now they're old enough and they kind of are showing the interest. So we've been making them costumes, and kind of it's a way of us developing our skills. We like to challenge ourselves in doing something different or learning a new technique of costume making, and so we're actually really enjoying making these really elaborate costumes for our children, and they like it. I mean, everyone thinks that she's miserable, but there are moments where she's really itching to put the costume on and be epic, right, Zoe? Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what went into this costume, because it is very elaborate, but what kind of materials did you use, and how did you put this together?
Actually, the only thing this whole costume is made out of is craft foam, which is that little thin foam that you find at craft stores, and hot glue. Lots and lots of hot glue. That's pretty much it. And a lot of it was just experimental. I've never made anything this complicated before out of craft foam. So it was a learning experience for me, which is, I love it.
Do you see more parents doing costumes for their kids and with their kids than in the past? Because it seems like I see a lot more of it at Comic-Con, very elaborate, costumes for kids, like dinosaurs and things like that.
Well, the costume making world, as far as the amateur costume making world, has grown. It's just blown up since I first started. There weren't as many people in costume, and they weren't making the things you see now with the armor. Because there's people today, they have YouTube to thank. And during my day and age, I didn't have YouTube. It was kind of a catch and miss, where if you knew someone in the film industry, that was awesome. You just kind of leached off of them and their knowledge. And but now you can just go to YouTube, and there's so many tutorials on how to make these things out of foam. I've never worked with craft foam before, as far as heat molding it and stuff, and I went on YouTube and said how to, and there it was, and it just opened up this whole new medium for me. And it's a lot easier for the regular Joe Schmo off the street to learn how to do this sort of thing, and because of that, more families are getting into it, and I am seeing children actually wearing these elaborate costumes and getting in with the parents, which is great, because families that cosplay together stay together, right?
What do you think about conventions like Monsterpalooza? How does that either help you to get better at making these costumes or give you a venue to show them off?
Well, it's really inspirational, because you see it's not just the people that are walking around displaying their own homemade costumes, it's the industry. You're seeing the best of the industry, and it's amazing seeing the life-size statues and the makeup artists at work, actually putting these prosthetics on these people and airbrushing them and stuff, and it is just very inspirational, especially for artists. It's a muse. It's your muse. And it's really neat for Zoe to see this sort of thing, because she's able to see what's possible. She understands that you can do really great things if you work hard at it, because she's watched this build from day one, and she really understands and appreciates the work that I put into it. But she's able to see other people's artwork and other people's skill here, and it's really great seeing her eyes, get really wide. It's like, oh wow, look at that.
All right, well, thank you.
Thank you.
I also spoke with Paul Shiola, a fan who's turned his love of monsters into a second job. He's the owner and sculptor of Sputnik Supplies. I'll let him explain what he does.
Well, Sputnik Supplies is my small company where I hand make artisanal toys of different types of rare monsters, small runs, 30 and 40. It's vinyl-like toys, all handmade and hand-painted here in the USA.
So what inspired you to do this?
I'm a big vinyl toy collector, Japanese toy collector, and I've always wanted to make my own toys one way or another. I've been sculpting for years. I discovered this material that I've been working with, and it got me pumped up and excited about being able to do that here in the U.S. So I kicked it off, did some research, kicked it off a few years ago, and been having fun ever since.
Can I ask if you have a day job as well?
I absolutely do have a day job, yes. Nights and weekends is what I do with the Sputnik Supply stuff, and then during the day I pay the mortgage.
Now, looking at the stuff you have out, it's not your typical fare. This is not like the stuff that you see in big toy stores or things that everybody is going to recognize immediately. So tell me some of the items that you have out and what inspired you to do these particular things.
Well, I have a very eclectic and obscure taste, I feel, in my taste in movies and such, and that's where I draw from for ideas. So I love Mexican horror movies, Mexican wrestling movies. So I started making a whole line of Mexican monster toys that came from these movies. So I've got the Ship of Monsters is one I'm focusing on right now, and I've done the Ook, the Cyclops, and I've done Tegul, the little alien brain guy, and got more coming down the road. I'm having El Baron del Taro next year, so be on the lookout for that. Then, of course, the American movies I love. I love all kinds of movies, Japanese, American, everything. So, I created my own character even. I sort of took Big Boy and I took Robot Monster and made Roboy, and he's going to take over the world one planet at a time, take over the universe one planet at a time. So that's what he's going to do there.
So at a convention like this, are you finding that there are a lot of kindred spirits who are interested in your toys?
Absolutely. This is the show of shows, the way I look at it. It's all like one big family. The customers, the people you're standing next to in different booths, they're all the same mindset as me and a great, wonderful, eclectic taste like me. And so we can blend together and talk, and I learn from them, and we learn from each other. And the customers are gas, the costumes, oh my gosh. Talent is just oozing out of this building. It's amazing.
What do you think gave you this love of monsters?
Oh, well, I was 7 years old, and my brother Frank was he's my oldest brother. He came home from high school on a Friday, and someone had left several issues of Famous Monsters of Filmland in one of their desks. He happened to know who the kid was, and he was going to give them back to him on Monday. So I looked through them, and I was hooked. From then on, I scoured the TV guide every week to find out what horror movies I could watch, and I'd circle them, and I would religiously watch everything that I could get my hands on. So that's where it started, and from there, it's escalated.
And why do you think you're drawn to some of these movies that are not quite as mainstream as others?
Well, a lot of them are unheralded, and a lot of people don't know about them. And I want to help highlight some of this stuff, the more obscure things. You know, the Universal Monster stuff is great, everybody loves it, but there's a lot of other stuff, the subgenres that are out there that people I think need to explore. They need the attention, and I'm hoping to gain some of that for them.
So do you ever have people who pick up a toy from a movie that they've never seen just based on like, wow, that's cool, and I want to know more about it, or have one of those?
Actually, a couple of times, yeah. People get sort of educated by it, and then they're hooked. They go, oh my gosh, and then they go watch the movie, and then I get an email like a week or two later, and they go, I can't believe it. That was so much fun. Thank you for exposing me to that. So, yeah.
So what is the process of creating these toys? What do you have to do to create a vinyl toy?
Well, it all starts with, concept, getting an idea, and then taking the concept from two-dimensional sketches to a three-dimensional form. And I hand sculpt everything, so I take time to sculpt it the way I want it and break it down for the different pieces. And then the next step is make the molds, and clean up the molds, and then I start casting. So I get a bunch of parts done, and then assemble and start painting them all.
What do you do for your real job that has given you the skill set to do this? Not everyone can create their own toys.
Well, my real job really doesn't give me any skills for this job. I'm a sales rep for a natural organic food broker. So, But I went to college and for fine arts and drawing, sculpture, and that was my emphasis. Ended up being sculpture. So I got a good basic skills from there. But then I went into the garage kit world, I was making garage kits and sculpting garage kits, and that gave me a lot of exposure to different materials. And so it's kind of been self-educated after college for different kinds of materials. Finding this stuff out was using right now is about a 2-year R&D time that I had to go through to figure out what to do with it, how I could get it, where I could get the products, what the limitations of the product was. So, yeah.
And is this your first time at Monsterpalooza?
No, this is my 5th show here. Yeah.
What about the show do you like, and why is it important to have a show like this?
It's every single element of the Fantastique under one roof. Everything is here. I mean, if it's turn to the table over here, somebody has an El Santo figure. You know, I look over here, somebody's doing this beautiful leather work. Across from me, somebody's drawing zombies for $10 a shot. You know, it's just fantastic. And the people here appreciate what I do. They respect what I do, and the feedback I get is just wonderful. It's not just an ego boost, and I'm not just here to make money. I'm here just to be with people who think the way I do.
So do you consider this more of a hobby, or is it really kind of a second job?
It's a second job. It's become a second job. I'm afraid one day it's going to eclipse my other job. Ready or not, it's going to happen, I'm afraid. But yeah. Second job, work hard.
And Elliot's mom.
She's wonderful, I love her. I'll drive from Denver just to listen to her talk.
Is that where you're from?
Yeah, we're from Denver, Colorado, yeah.
Oh, so you come a long ways out for this.
Yes, we do, yeah. It's a long drive, but my wonderful wife comes with me, and it makes it so much fun.
What do you think makes monsters so attractive to people? This is a convention dedicated to monsters. What makes them so appealing to people?
I think in the heart of hearts of everybody, they pull for the underdog. And the monster generally is the underdog. I mean, one way or another, he's the underdog. People trying to kill him, or he's misunderstood, or she's misunderstood, and and they're always in a bad way. So I think people root for the underdog. They want the underdog to win. I think that's what it is. And I think all of us are a little monster inside, I think, yeah.
In creating these, a lot of these toys are based on movies. Do you have any rights issues trying to get the permission to make these, or do they become kind of your own work of art?
Well, some of them, like the Roboy, is my own work of art, but I do have licenses on some of the stuff that I sell. Most of the stuff I sell, I do attempt to get licensed or have licenses for them. So, I try to work within the law. I want to, honor the people who did this stuff and not skirt the issue, pay them their due, I imagine.
So what do you see as the future for Sputnik?
Oh, boy, onward and upward. I got more ideas than I can handle right now, stuff that I want to make. A bunch of fun new stuff's going to be coming out in the coming year. Maybe become a full-time job. Fingers crossed.
If it becomes a full-time job, does it no longer become fun, though?
I don't think so. I love to do the stuff. I love making things. So that's really where my passion is. And is it hard? Yeah, it's a lot of work, sure. But you do the things you love because you love to do them. And that's where it would be for me.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's 5:56. We have 4 minutes for the doors to close. 5:56.
Finally, another monster fan turning a passion into a profession is Christina Himiog. I met her last year at Monsterpalooza and ordered masks from her for my home haunt. She's amazingly talented and has boundless enthusiasm. She almost has me convinced that I can make my own tentacles for my Lovecraftian haunt this year.
Well, I'm just selling my masks. I on the side, I have a full-time job, but on the side, I make latex masks.
Tell me what kind of work goes into creating a latex mask.
Oh boy, okay. So you start off by, having your concept, whatever you want to sculpt, and then you choose your clay type. I work in water clay, in wet, and then I basically just rough out a shape, then make sure that all my forms are there, and start texturing. And then once the sculpture is complete, I seal it with a crystal clear finish, and I make a plaster mold. It's either a 1-part or a 2-part mold. Most of my molds are 2 parts, but I'm trying to switch to 1 part because then I don't have to seam the latex. So then what I do is that once I clean out the mold with all the clay, I pour in latex and let it dwell for 4 to 5 hours. so the stone can suck up the moisture out of the latex and it builds a skin. Then I pour the latex back out and that skin remains. I'll let that dry out for a few days and then I pull the mask out. The mask typically requires seaming and a lot of cleaning. Then I put a adhesion promoter on it so the paint will stick to latex. Then I paint it, and then I seal it with a Liquitex varnish. And sometimes it'll need lenses. Most of the time it needs lenses, so I do all the vacuforms myself. And I tint the vacuforms. And Admiral Akbar actually has big, round eyeballs. So I pour those out of clear resin, and then I epoxy the graphic onto the back of it so it looks like a fish lens, kind of an eye. So that's what I do.
So how did you get into doing this?
I've loved makeup effects and special effects for a very long time, and I just love the concept of dressing up for Halloween. I've always loved Halloween, and I love Halloween masks, and I love that you can just slip on a mask and become a completely different character, and nobody knows who you are, but they are in love with the person that you've become or the thing that you've become, and you can adopt that personality. So and not only that, but I love the characters that I see in movies. So I want to sort of incorporate myself into that world by imitating it. The imitation's the highest and most sincere form of flattery. So I just imitate what I love and try to dress up as that. So that's why.
Wait for her.
I love when she sings at the end of the convention. It's so awesome.
It looks like, based on what I'm seeing on your table, that you are a Star Wars fan.
That's true. It's correct.
So, what made you decide? Do you do this as a profession, or do you also have another job to support this, or how does that work?
I definitely have another job. When I first moved to Los Angeles, though, I didn't have a job, and I didn't have a job for I think a month and a half. And so what I did was I had a little bit of money, and I just bought latex and clay and stone, like just plaster, and I made 3 masks as soon as I got here, just to keep busy and just to try to make something and stay occupied. But I do have a full-time job. I work at Steve Wang's studio in Canoga Park, and I've been working for him for a little while now, but I definitely do. And he loves masks. He started out making masks, and so he's very nurturing when it comes to that. He lets me use his shop whenever I'm sculpting or making molds. He'll definitely chime in and tell me what he thinks, and he's a big fan of Star Wars as well, so it's definitely awesome to have him as a help.
What made you fall in love with monsters to the point that you wanted to do this kind of work?
I just love movies. I love anything that isn't science fiction and horror, mostly science fiction. I think I'm mostly a science fiction kind of a person. But I just love creepy crawly things and like monster-y things with giant bulbous heads, it's I'm not really sure. I know that there's something deep inside that calls to it. I can't necessarily place it or pinpoint it or tell you like a specific moment in my life where I had an epiphany that I loved this stuff. I think I always have, but I feel honestly that there should be more of this kind of stuff in movies that are coming out now. But unfortunately, it seems like it's sort of going away. So I guess I just want to try to keep it going.
What do you feel about conventions like Monsterpalooza? Why is it important to have these kind of conventions, and what do you enjoy about interacting with people here?
Well, I love the camaraderie. That's probably number one. I love meeting everybody who's passionate, everyone who's making stuff. People give you insight. You build friendships that are lasting because you keep coming back to the same thing. People are excited to see each other's work. I'm excited to see other artists' new pieces and talk about them. And it's definitely, it's inspirational. And knowing that people who come into these conventions to purchase your work is just a propellant to make more, to just keep doing it, and it's not in vain, that other people love the craft as well. So there's just so many, such a multifaceted environment, and there's just so many things to love about it. I just hope that I can keep coming back,
So if there are people out there who would like to do similar kind of work, what advice do you have to kind of get into this?
Oh man, just start. Just do it. There's nothing to stop you. Materials are typically very cheap, especially if you want to make masks. It's so easy. All you have to do, a block of clay is $15. A bag of plaster, 100-pound bag of plaster is $30. Right there, you can make a mask and mold it. Latex is super cheap. It's dirt cheap. So, if you have a concept, if you have an idea, if you want to dress up as anything, or if there's a creature that you admire, or a movie that calls to you that you want to draw ideas from, just start. It's so fulfilling, and you can just keep doing it. And the fact that there is a venue to showcase that work and that passion is, it's really not that expensive. And if you save a little bit for a table, you'll get a lot of feedback, and you'll get a lot of positive feedback, which is good. You'll get both, but you'll definitely get people that encourage you and nurture the work. So.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for this interview. It was really nice.
I know, it's deciding whether or not I should confess to the fact that you've made me 3 masks to get me through a Halloween haunt of Star Wars.
I'm so happy about that. I honestly, knowing that you're going to do a Cthulhu one, it makes me want to make more masks. So.
Yay! And tentacles.
And tentacles. Yay for tentacles.
All right.
As Elliot's mom sings over the PA at the Pasadena Convention Center, another Monsterpalooza comes to a close. I came home with a Tingler, a Biolante, and 2 gorgeous photo books of Godzilla. I also felt inspired by all the talented people who help bring movie monsters to life. Next week, I'll have a podcast about the TCM Film Festival and about cinema as a church. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or check out the webpage at kpbs.org/junkiepodcast. So till our next Film Fix, I'm Beth Accomando, your resident cinema junkie.
KPBS On Demand is supported by Markel Design and Remodeling, helping homeowners with their home remodeling needs. From ADUs to kitchen remodels, room additions, and custom homes, Markel Design and Remodeling can help homeowners design and build their dream homes. More at trustyourhometous.com.